exciting set of remarks to come from a very cross-sector panel led by a lot of our cities. But first, before we get into the cities, I wanted to just introduce Giorgia Rambelli, who's director of the Urban Transitions Mission, to provide some very key welcome remarks and a very exciting program that we're launching alongside the Urban Transitions Mission over at Innovate for Cities. Giorgia, please, the floor and the podium are yours.
Thank you very much, Ben, for the kind introduction. We have some slides. I'm not sure if there is a clicker or... Thank you. Thank you very much. So, as mentioned, my name is Giorgia Rambelli. I'm the director of the Urban Transition Mission. And just a couple of words for me to kick off this conversation around how do we foster research and innovation partnership to tackle the challenges around urban transition. So we all know the numbers here of how much cities are impactful, both in terms of energy consumption, but also in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And we also know, and I hope this is something that was also demonstrated very clearly by the opportunity for this year to have the first in the Blue Zone Local Climate Action Summit, the importance of cooperating across level and across different sectors to really facilitate transitions that are impactful at the local level and they can secure a holistic move towards a more net zero and climate resilient future. So a few words about our mission. Our Urban Transition Mission mobilizes different policymakers across all sectors, and the idea is really very much to foster systemic innovation. We work to empower cities to have access to the most innovative solutions, but also to, together by working with us, to reach the tipping points in both the scale and the cost of these solutions to be deployed. And we act by brokering as much as possible solutions that are available out there in order to ensure that this knowledge is not only shared among peers, but also with a large number of partners from the institutional level as well as from the private sector level. So we started by working with a cohort of 48 ambitious cities. We have one sitting here in the panel with us, and we have more connecting online that have been kind of taking a journey together with us. First of all, we started to understand what are the different topics that are really bothering the cities, what are the wicked problems that they are trying to solve. And we realized that all these different sectoral issues are very much underpinned also by, let's say, framework challenges that the cities are facing around, for example, access to finance, access to data, governance that needs to be improved. So we started thinking, how do we make sure that we mobilize resources and innovations and solutions that can really help the cities across each different step of their climate action journey? And to do that, we kind of created a bit of an artificial, to a certain extent, framework where we brought together a number of different cities to start to exchange on these macro clusters, as we call them, these macro topics, kind of making sure that we have a structure underneath which we can encompass not only resources, but also opportunity for capacity building, assistance, and for cooperating all together. So I'll go back to that one later. All of this made us also think it's time to also engage, of course, as much as we can with new solutions. We are about innovation after all. And this is where the marriage made in heaven, I would say, with Innovate for Cities came about. We started understanding better from the experience and the knowledge acquired by Innovate for Cities, what type of research priorities do we have at the global level, in particular to actionate different opportunities for cities to learn more about what the gaps are in terms of what the needs are also at the local level. And as you can see, there are many priorities over there. We then try to cross-reference all of these different priorities with the other existing agendas that are informing the work that our mission is doing. You can see here the climate action agenda that I just mentioned, but also, for example, some of the agendas that are brought forward around research and innovation from the European Union, which is one of the co-leads of our mission, and kind of cluster this all together to identify 10 macro priorities that we are trying to contribute with. And we thought, now that we have the priorities, we want to use the cluster to kind of make advancement in this relationship, in these opportunities to talk to each other. So Of course, all of these different priorities are very much interconnected. When we talk about innovative governance, governance is, of course, cross-reference. We talk about energy governance. We talk about how to access data and scenario that can help us make more informed decision-making. We talk about solutions around engaging citizens, for example, mobility. And all the way through all these different priorities, this was our thinking. How do we use the cluster to connect to the priorities and to make sure that we get closer and closer to the support that we want to give to our cities, finding out what are the gaps that are still existing, but also the solutions that are spearheading directly on the ground. And I believe you will hear some of them later today. So now to go to the practice. After this analysis and after this, let's say, structuring of our process, we are now ready to launch activities that will encompass not only our small community of cities, which, by the way, will be doubling this year. So soon we're going to look for about 100 cities to engage directly with us throughout these processes, but also to go into the opportunity to relate to universities and different research institutions and think tanks to come together with us, develop training programs, understand where the challenges are, and feed it back into the process of Innovate for Cities so that we are all rooting together and strongly in the same direction. Because of that, we officially launched an opportunity for research institution, academia, and think tanks to join us and express their interest in participating into these different clusters. You can scan the code and already mark your interest to join our processes. And we are now looking forward to begin activities and to include these different institutions together with our cities, together with our partners in our growing community, and to continue the research together. Now, unfortunately, I will have to run because I have another engagement, but I hope that throughout this discussion, all the innovation that you're going to be discussing about, there can also be one about being into places in the same place, teletransportation. I don't know. If you have any ideas at the end of the panels, please do let me know. And I know our cities and our partners like Terry will be doing an amazing job to represent the Urban Transition Mission, and I leave you in the hands of the most capable moderator that I know. So enjoy the discussion, and I look forward to hearing what the results are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Georgia. Always a pleasure to have you, and the fantastic spirit that you carry with the Urban Transitions Mission is undeniable, and you certainly would not have gotten this far without all of the motivation that you carry. So thank you so much for leading the charge. I'm going to very briefly make a few introductions here up at the front and also online. And I have to realize, rather embarrassingly, I'll start with myself because I didn't even introduce myself earlier. My name is Ben Hanse. I'm the head of research and innovation with the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, the world's largest alliance for city climate leadership, now with more than 13,000 cities and local governments committed to climate and sustainability action. Please don't be shy, have a seat. And really focused on helping ensure that we have strong city climate action, regardless of where cities are in their journeys, whether they're small, mid-sized, or large, whether they're just starting out with a political commitment or otherwise. It's an important opportunity to bring them into the fold. And as Georgia mentioned, with the Local Climate Action Summit that took place on December 1st and December 2nd, then the momentum is really hitting a critical point. Just to come first to the introductions, I just wanted to highlight who we've got on the stage. First, to my left, we have Risto Veiva, who's Director for the Environment at Turku, the city of Turku in Finland. One of the original members of the Urban Transitions Mission and a longtime friend and partner and collaborator of the Global Covenant of Mayors. Risto, it's fantastic to have you with us. Also on my left, we have Sanjay Seth, who's Senior Director for Sustainable Infrastructure Program at the Energy and Resources Institute in India, or perhaps better known to everyone by their acronym of TERI. Online, I have to look behind me now. Do we have the mayor Mayor Camila Merino with us? I just need to check. Yes, fantastic. Then we do. Just wanted to introduce as well, Alcaldesa, es un placer tenerle aquí con nosotros. Mayor Camila Merino of Vitacura, Chile, also part of the mission. Fantastic to have you on board. And last but not least as well, Dr. Peter Fröhlich, who's team lead of international partnerships and Cooperation for Transitions at FFG, based in Austria. I think that's all of our panelists. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone else. Yeah, we got good friendly waves. Fantastic. So as you can see, very much going hybrid. This is a global urban transitions mission and a global Innovate for Cities initiative. And this is very much emblematic of the kind of work that we hope to take on across different borders. Maybe just a few words before I pass to our fantastic panelists. Just picking up from where Georgia left off. She mentioned the launch of these research clusters. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is to broker knowledge, especially where there are gaps in understanding and gaps in where the research exists clearly that cities need to have filled if they're ever to make inroads and real progress on the climate actions, the sustainability actions that they need to take. And it's an opportunity to elevate local and regional knowledge. And I'll highlight here specifically, especially, research that is not published in English. We have a massive commitment to this. We're just getting started on this with the Innovate for Cities initiative at the Global Covenant, which is about 5 years old now. We started back at the Cities and Climate Change Science Conference in Edmonton, Canada in 2018, which had about 650 attendees join us. And this was the first time we brought cities and climate change science together in one unified forum. And it went on, and now we've got also in 2021 evolved into the Innovate for Cities conference, which was hosted for the first time. That was virtual, obviously at the height of the pandemic, but testament to the spirit of urban research and innovation. We had nearly 7,000 participants join that online. And the point isn't just to do conferences. The point is to elevate the knowledge where it exists, especially where we don't know it exists, and make sure that we bring that up and start filling the gaps. And already, we launched these research clusters at Middle East and North Africa Climate Week just a couple of months ago. It feels like forever ago now, such has this year been. And it's been a crucial opportunity to learn what already some of the universities that are working closely or are in the proximity of our mission cities are focusing on. Renewable energy sources, 1. Mobility, 2. Built environments, and water are some of the key priorities that have already been shared, and those correspond with the priorities that you saw on the slides earlier. And we also have highlighted or seen through these responses from these universities the existing knowledge that they'd already like to bring to the table. It's around target setting, it's around mobility, as I mentioned, it's around resilience. And they have a diverse set of different partners that they already work with, or types of engagement, whether it's with business, whether it's around good governance, which I'll come to Risto with in a second, and of course around technological development. And so there's quite a diverse tapestry of where each of these urban transitions mission cities focus. And we're so glad to have 2 of those cities with us here today. So without further ado, maybe I'll pass to you first, Risto, just to give us a bit of a flavor from Turku, which has had a very strong track record of making itself a city of and for its people, which is a hallmark, at least for me, of good governance. How do you engage your communities on climate action? You've recently strengthened your partnerships with local universities on your journey to climate neutrality. Can you share a little bit more about that and maybe what we might be able to expect in the future?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, and pleasure to be here. Turku is a city of several universities, and 1/4 of our inhabitants are actually students. We are the largest city in southwest Finland and former capital of Finland, city of science and culture. The local community is very active and knowledgeable, and strong civic participation and NGOs and organizing of the civic society is a tradition in Finland since several hundred years. So that gives, of course, us a very strong basis to work on climate, and our goal is to be climate neutral by 2029. As of last year, we are almost 60% down with the emissions from the level of 1990, which is remarkable, and also the level per capita of Scope 2 emissions is lowest among big cities in Finland, and also low in sustainability terms, even if not low enough. Since 2009, the climate goals have been unanimously adopted at our city council, not without discussion, not without debate, not without active debate in civic society, but still the decisions of the council have been unanimous for 4 times for each council term, and all of these decisions have been more ambitious than the decisions on state level in Finland or in European Union. And in EU, there is the policy and package of Fit for 55, referring to a reduction of emissions from 1990 level by 55%, and we are past that already. So we are doing pretty well, and we couldn't be doing that well without the strong involvement of civic society and of citizens, and that happens in many ways. There is, for instance, an active youth council. We are involving citizens into an 1.5-degree campaign. We are demonstrating in different ways how the city is enabling a climate-friendly lifestyle in everyday life. I have examples of that. Shall I continue still, or?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, okay. So an overarching principle of our climate work is that we want to base it on best available scientific knowledge, and there we have our universities as partners and many state agencies. Now, talking about governance, we have reduced the emissions from energy production already, and from several other sectors where we have a strong influence as the municipality. We own the local energy company, for instance. Next, we need people to make sustainable choices in everyday life. And for instance, to get the emissions down from transport, people need to choose sustainable transport modes. Or to get the footprint of nutrition of food down, we need the people to make sustainable food choices. So imagine yourself in a school canteen. In Finland, pupils have got a warm meal at schools once a day since the 1930s. My grandmother was a teacher, and she said actually that this was the most important social innovation in Finland that she saw during her career. Our country was not always rich. It's been wealthy for some decades, but not so long. Okay, so you are in the school canteen, and there is some noise, and there is other pupils, and there's some chatter, and there's the line where you take the food. So now, what actually influences on your choices? You are hungry. You are busy to go out to play with your friends, etc. So you pile from the line, and it's actually the first things on the line that you probably pile most. And it depends on, of course, that it looks fresh and good, etc. And the policy there is to create an architecture of choices so that your perceived environment is supporting your sustainable choices. For school children and for adults as well, this means you have first salads, you have vegetables, you have vegetarian meals, you have maybe some local fish. If there is meat, the meat is last. And that's not the only thing. You also communicate with the kids at school. You ask what are their favorite vegetarian meals, what kind of meals they would like to have more often, etc. So they have a say, they have a power, and still you create this architecture. I shouldn't take it too long, but let me just say that this example of the school canteen is actually quite similar if you think of your daily choices as an adult when you commute. What kind of environment you are provided with? Is it easy to make sustainable choices? Is it safe and fun to use the bicycle, for instance? I'm using it all year round. It's not always fun. Well, actually it is, but it's not always the most obvious choice. And we have to support that as a city. There's no way around that. The city is always creating an architecture of choices, being responsible for several services, being responsible for the urban environment. Mm-hmm. And the question is how we use that power that is for us.
It's a power of the people, in a way.
Yeah, and the power of the city in creating
Absolutely.
the environments. But maybe we should move on.
No,
Thank you.
Risto, thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing those insights. And it's really interesting because, again, you're already moving into empowerment. You're focusing on core human needs. You've already tied
Yeah.
so many of them together.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to say the important
Yes.
point. Of course, how do we influence the behavior and how we work on these architectural choices? There we partnered with the local, with our university, with the Department of Psychology. In the European mission, we had a pilot project of 1.5 degree city, and it's also connected the Urban Transitions mission. We worked on 1.5 degree lifestyles with Japanese cities and Ickley, Japan, for instance. And from the psychology department, there is a research track on nudging, and this means on how you can make sustainable choices more easy and more desirable. And we are applying that knowledge together in order to make these architectural choices to support sustainable choices more effectively.
This is the kind of learning process, I think, Risto, that we're very keen to try to replicate in ways that work for other cities in other parts of the world and with other partners as well. So thank you for being that shining beacon. And I just need to share with everyone here, we were in a meeting with some colleagues from the UNFCCC and your mayor, Mayor Mina Arva.
Yes.
And when she mentioned that Turku was planning to be climate neutral by 2029, their jaws literally dropped in front of us, which is just emblematic of the ambition that you hold. But the comments that you've just raised here are equally emblematic of the implementation that you're focused on right now, and also connecting to a lot of what this hub is meant to do, which is to help enable that through a lot of the transformation, a lot of the technological solutions that we're putting together, and the collaboration that we're seeing through the Urban Transitions mission. If I may, Risto, I may just want to move very quickly. It's very exciting. We'll have a little bit more time. Don't worry. I want to move. She's been very patient online. Alcaldesa Mayor Camila Merino of Vitacura, someone with a really strong track record on nature-based solutions, which I know resonates with a lot of the colleagues here and online as well. We know for the last few years, we've really focused on the fact that there's been a dearth of financing for climate action at project level and systemically, and even more so on adaptation. Only 9% of all climate action financing across mitigation and adaptation went to adaptation in 2022, according to the city's Climate Finance Leadership Alliance. And it's so critical that we have to accelerate this. Your track record shows that it is possible, and I just want to dive into that for a second and learn a bit more about the steps that your city has taken and where you might be seeing opportunities to make financing more readily available. Mayor Merino, the floor is yours. Thanks so much for joining us online.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. And for us, it's very important to have the opportunity to share our experiences here at Vitacura, a community deeply committed to sustainability. Vitacura is a community with 100,000 residents. It's a place that is mainly residential, has a higher income, and is really, all the citizens really committed to the sustainability. And we have 3 areas where we are working. One is green areas, the second is recycle, and the third is sustainability in mobility, sustainable mobility. Regarding what you asked, regarding green areas, is really critical because we have facing mega droughts really intensified by climate change, and we have to make many changes. We address this effort not only regarding public areas, but also including private areas, the entire community. We are working with other municipalities because the climate that we are facing is the same, so we have to share best practices. And we have a green infrastructure plan that is important. It's not only aimed to help mitigate climate change, but also to create better places. So our investments are contributing to have a better life to our citizens, our neighbors. We are encouraging participation, and for us it's very critical to have a co-creation of this new area we have intervened. We have make many changes, introducing new species, native species or exotic that have been adapted to this new climate. We have replacing grass with biodiversity promoting plants. We are trying to connect a public and private green areas to create a great green corridor that promote biodiversity. And what the result that we have today is we have been able to a reduction, very important reduction of the consumption of water in 70%. That is very important. And also we have increased the tree coverage, and this helped to mitigate the increase in temperature, the heat island effect that all you know. But what is important for us is to create a momentum, to create a culture of sustainability, and for that we need to train, to do educational campaigns. It's the only way that all the citizens, our neighbors, are committed to also be involved of these new initiatives. We are financing the investment in public areas, but the investment in private areas are done by our residents and also private institutions. And where people know the importance to do these investments and the benefit to do this investment, they are committed and increasingly are doing the change that we need. However, we know that we will need more resources if we want to expand, we want to replicate this at a regional level or even at national level. So that is important, these different meetings and the role of universities, the role of the society to put pressure in the government to also put money in these initiatives. We think that the role of urban transition missions is very important because it's a way to first to put this subject with the urgency that we need. Second, to share best practices, also to establish the indicators to know if we are doing well or not, if we are doing the necessary step to really move all the society to what we need to do. It's a lot we have done, but it's a lot of work that we should be done. But with the commitment of our neighbors, we are sure that we are going in the good track.
Muchísimas gracias, señora alcaldesa. Thank you so much, Mayor Merino. It's fantastic to have you on and also to have you share a lot of the perspectives and also this culture of sustainability, as you mentioned, that is important in the context of Vitacura. Again, really hits the nail on the head for the Global Innovation Hub, which is trying to rethink altogether the way in which we approach what are often considered to be siloed and sectoral solutions to the climate crisis. And you are emblematic as well of the way in which, through your green spaces, through recycling and mobility, as you've mentioned, you're really creating that sea change within your respective communities, and certainly in Vitacura, an opportunity to learn from you also. We'll come back to you in a second, Mayor, and first want to turn now to our other two panelists, starting with Sanjay here in the room. And the question to both Sanjay and to Dr. Fröhlich are exactly the same. We've heard some very interesting remarks from both of our city representatives around the work that they're carrying out, the way in which they're pursuing sustainability action, and whether it's sufficiently resourced, backed by the most accurate evidence possible, or if they're working on whatever information they have available to them, they are making it happen, which is testament to the need, right? Having heard this, very curious to understand how your work as sort of research institutions interfaces with some of the solutions that you've heard, or maybe the challenges at least. If yes, very curious to understand sort of how, and maybe if you can share any solutions of your own, sort of from your own best practice, what are the ways in which you see those sort of being replicated and scaled up? So Sanjay, we'll start with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you very much. I think we at TERI are at the center of, since we are a research-based organization, we are there to find solutions which are really workable and implementable rather than just looking at the policy frameworks and then looking at the implementation frameworks. I think it's very important to realize, and I think all of the other speakers have highlighted that it's very important to involve the citizens, and the government into that thinking process as you move along. So it is a collaborative effort that is required to be put in by, say, the citizens with the governments. Both horizontal and vertical integration is absolutely necessary. And then we'll engage with the civil society and research and academia to bring in solutions, innovative solutions, which are implementable. This, I think, then helps you to come up with, ideas these are co-created ideas, which are probably withstand the test of time. And I mean, when you kind of implement them, you are able to understand what has worked and what has probably not worked. And that brings us to a unique experience or an experiment that we have done, and that is the Urban Living Lab concept that we put together. And we have been engaged with the cities. You see, every city has a unique problem, right? And if you find a solution which has worked in one city, then the chances of it being replicated to another city with a similar problem gets, very probable. So the Urban Living Labs, they have proved highly successful in incorporating various aspects of, say, the 10 priority areas that you talked about in the opening presentation. Now, this is a new concept that has come up where we provide experimentation gardens within neighborhoods and cities, and then we expect participation from citizens, governments, private actors, and knowledge-based institutions to interact, design, test, and fine-tune those solutions that are being, addressed, and then see that the technical interventions, how they have really gone about with impacts on a real-time basis. You document all of that, and then probably provide those to the other cities with similar kind of problems. So this is something which we are currently doing. There are several cities which we are seeing around the coastal areas, which are, as I speak to you, we have had there is a huge cyclone which has impacted one of the cities, a metropolitan city in India, which is Chennai, and it has some devastating impacts. Probably, in the coastal areas, we are working very closely with Visakhapatnam, which has again been seeing a lot of onslaught of cyclonic activity. Chennai, as I spoke to you. Goa is another city where you have these problems of flooding because these are all on the coastal areas. So how do you really go about providing through scientific, data-driven, engagements as to how do you go about finding impacts to or finding solutions for these challenges that these cities face, and then hope that they get replicated elsewhere when you're looking at. So, as I said in the beginning, that each city has a unique problem, and if you really get into the heart of it and work around using the Urban Living Lab concept and document it as a case study, then I think you're pretty much there.
I feel like you should be the moderator for this session, Sanjay. You mentioned so many of the right terms, and I know it's not just lip service. You are very committed to this at TERI, the process of co-creation and of collaboration across sectors, which is 100% what Innovate for Cities is doing, and certainly what these research clusters that we're doing alongside the Urban Transitions Mission are looking to foster as well. Again, if we take a step back and look at what the Urban Transitions Mission is, there is a solid research and innovation component that we need to stand up.
Absolutely.
And there is a massive element of that requires this unearthing of that knowledge. Urban Living Labs will get you a significant way of the way there.
Yeah, I just want also like to add here that, we are very fortunate that we are the Secretariat for the Mission Innovation.
Yes.
Yeah. So
indeed.
So
just a very casual thing to mention. I think in this particular context, it is very important. And again, India and the way in which it has supported the mission so far has been instrumental. My colleague Kathy in the audience was in Goa earlier this year for the event. And again, testament to where this research and innovation needs to be coming from.
Sure.
If we don't know it, we need it. That is the focus, or part of the focus that we have through these clusters, is to really bring that knowledge up. And I think a good segue at this point to go to our last panelist, who's been the most patient of them all online, Dr. Peter Fröhlich from FFG. And I will say we have a special relationship in that both Peter, who's representing, of course, the Driving Urban Transitions team, but then also JPI Urban Europe, and us at the Global Covenant represent two of the co-leads of the Urban Transitions Mission, the third, of course, being the Directorate General for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. Dr. Fröhlich, I just want to come to you very, very briefly. Similar question to that which we asked Sanjay, which was just sort of reflections on what you've heard from our city practitioners, Mayor Merino and Risto here with us on the ground, and maybe what resonates with you, how that aligns with some of the work that you're already doing as part of DUT, and maybe ways in which you might already see potential for replication and scaling through these research clusters and using this shared knowledge base and agenda that we've already brought together through this program. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so thank you very much that I can also share our views. As you said, we are working together to internationalize the research and innovation outputs that come from that are happening in cities. And we at the Driving Urban Transitions program, we are especially joining funding agencies and try to multiply the different innovation activities in various countries, also involving non-European countries. Like currently we not only have European, but also Korea, South Korea and Canada. And we're also seeking to also include the countries that are here represented as well, like India and Chile and so on. So we're together with you are working on kind of growing the community, and I think that's the major point. I think if we bind our resources, then we come up with more interesting solutions. And as we see around the globe, we have similar challenges. And for example, I just need to underline that that what Mr. Risto said, it's really important to involve the citizens to really see how they could be integrated, and also living labs, how they could be created, And also I need to underline what Mrs. Merino said about the nature-based solutions. That's also one of our targets in our program. Currently, 3 main topics are evolving, and there we expect to have lots of interesting research projects, which can then also contribute to what you're saying is the positive energy districts. That's it's all about decentralized energy solutions and renewable energy solutions. Then the 15-minute district cities, so where you can mostly reach all important aspects for your daily life in the next 15 minutes, such that you reduce the carbon transport. And also circular urban economies. So those are the 3 focal points that we have in our research program. And currently we're working on constructing for the next call in 2024. And everyone is really invited to join there. One example is just energy transition. So to really enable everyone, every citizen to help with the transition without being overwhelmed socially and financially. So because that's a major challenge that we're facing. The costs of this transition, of course, could decrease fairness, and that's something that we could, I think, discuss. And also, I've seen some of that. What Mrs. Merino said could come into that direction. It would be interesting to discuss on this a bit further. So I don't want to take too long, because I think there's another round to be done right now. So I'm happy to contribute later on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Fröhlich. And it's great to hear sort of the different sort of nodes of the research that DUT is taking on. And again, the fact that it's also becoming more global and bringing in that sort of international component is key and very much in alignment with what we'd like to do through the research clusters. Mayor Merino, I want to come back to you very, very briefly here for our second sort of round of questions, and then in a short moment we might open it up to those in the audience, both online and here in the pavilion. Very curious to understand from you. You mentioned many of the solutions that you are already undertaking in Vitacura. A lot of this work with the research clusters is focused on what we don't know yet or what we need help on. So in terms of research knowledge that you might need yourself as mayor, as Vitacura, what do you think, what are those priorities for you? What do you need to know the most? How can we help you the most in unearthing the research priorities that can add more evidence to the actions that you're taking?
Regarding green areas, we are working with the university and experts to identify what are the species that we should use here in the area of Santiago, and Vitacura is a part of Santiago. How we can contribute to biodiversity, how is the best way to do it, and we established that it's very important to have big green corridor interconnected, not only regarding public areas, also to include private areas. How is the impact of green areas in the reduction of temperature? You have to put figures on that. And also how we can reduce the cost of managing green areas in maintenance and also in the consumption of water. How is the best way to use the water? So, and there are many things. And how is the impact of green areas, not only in the adaptation of climate change, but also have benefit in the mental health of citizens. So when you invest, you have more benefits that invest only in adaptation. This is regarding green areas. Regarding recycle, when I arrived as a mayor to Vitacura, I realized that we weren't recycling really, the figures, how the indicator to know what is the benefit of the separation, the benefit of what its citizens, its home is doing. All the effort have to have a benefit, and we should evaluate the benefit, because sometimes we think we are recycling, but finally, at the end of the game, this product is a waste. So we have to have all the analysis to be very sure the impact of our effort. And regarding also mobility, we are investing in to have more bicycles, but we need to interconnect the roads, not only in Vitacura, so in the rest of the area, to really have an impact in the reduction of use of cars, and that's it. And also in electric cars, we are using electric cars, but for example, we want to use also electric car in the disposal of waste, and that is new for us. There are not electric car in the use of recollection of waste, and we also need to have the information, what is the cost, the total cost of ownership to move to this requirement to have electric cars instead of fuels trucks. So as I mentioned, there are many things that we need to have the information, but because it's very important, because with information we can prioritize better where to put the money and the efforts.
Mayor Merino, thank you so much for highlighting. You listed so many priorities, and I think that again is exactly the kind of work that we're trying to take on. That's cross-sector. You mentioned green corridors. You mentioned the co-benefits on health, which is crucial, on waste and on cycling infrastructure. Again, so many pieces to pick up, and my hope. Not only my hope, we will work towards it. And again, I look at my colleagues that are in the audience here. We will work towards trying to ensure that we get that research lifted up together and in partnership with you, with Turku, of course, and with many of the other Urban Transitions Mission cohort cities, to work with your universities in your within your municipalities, and certainly that you're affiliated with, to lift up that knowledge. Risto, very briefly, and I know we're coming to the end, I want to make maybe one question from the audience. Other reflections from you as well, just based off of what you've heard. Does this sort of resonate with your experience as well?
Indeed, the three key topics of mission innovation here: energy districts, the 15-minute city or living, and the circular economy are all relevant for us, and we can certainly use research spaces on that. And in addition to linking us with the research partners, I think it is very important that we link between the cities. And in particular, I would like to learn, and I think we would like to learn in Turku, from the Indian cities and from the experience of India, of having actually the sustainable lifestyle, the Life for Environment campaign as part of the nationally determined contributions to Paris Agreement. I think this is quite a flagship example, and we would like to learn more from that, and also from the practice and on how you are using the Indian traditional sustainable knowledge and practices in
fact, I was going to mention the Mission Life, which is Lifestyle for Environment, how it integrates frugality at the very basis of sustainable development, to make sure that you are able to do more with less. And that's the concept that and it's a mission which has been an initiative which has been announced by our Honorable Prime Minister. And I think that's the we follow it in our daily practices every day, and we need to move away from a consumeristic society that the youngsters are gradually getting into, of use and throw models which are not really sustainable anymore. So I think that Mission Life, and together with the fact that economy and development need to coexist. You can't do it at one at the cost of the other. So striking a balance between the two is very important. And I think all of this in the policies and the framework that the government has announced and the work that we do in TERI, they are all aligned on these frameworks.
And that, we shouldn't take that for granted. That level of alignment is actually quite hard to come by.
It is. But I mean, that's where I think that's where, you know, again, I come back to the main point that involving the citizens is very important to be able to bring about that behavioral change that is required. And once you are able to bring about that change in the mindset of the people, then the chances of you succeeding, I think, are very bright.
Any questions from the audience, either online or in person? And I entrust the online questions. Sylvia, are there any? None at the moment. Any from here in the room? I know it's been a very long day. Not for Mayor Merino, although maybe you've been up very early as well, Mayor. I know that it's busy days for everybody. Kathy, please, yes, go ahead.
Hello to those online. I'm not sure if you can hear us. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see me, but it's Kathy. I work with Ben on the Innovate for Cities initiative and obviously with Georgia as the Director of Urban Transitions Mission. But I guess my question to all of you, but I know that you're not all going to be able to answer, we're running out of time, is we're really interested in, or we know that we need to get the knowledge that is in cities into the peer review science. We've got the special report on cities, the IPCC is about to get underway. So we're really interested in collaborations between cities and science on peer review publications, which usually are not necessarily that of interest to practitioners, but it is actually crucial that we start to do this, particularly in the lead up to this special report. So I guess it's a question to those that might want to answer. Are you already collaborating on writing with these science partners that you do have and that you've mentioned? But secondly, would you be interested if you're not? Because we'd love to foster some of these publications with you.
Can I?
Please go ahead, and I will just very kindly ask if we could keep it to 30 seconds or a minute each.
Yeah, I mean, this is, the smart city mission, if you really look at, of the Government of India, that was basically aligned with on data-driven, implementation and data-driven governance. And at the back end, we were the engines that were working with the smart city mission. And we being a research organization, obviously everything is scientific that we do. We don't just, and for any policy, I think it's very important for us to understand that for any policy to succeed, it's very, very important that organizations are in research and academic organizations become the back-end engines to make sure that those policies eventually succeed.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Dr. Fröhlich, I'll come back to you in a sec, I promise. Dr. Fröhlich, please, go ahead.
Yes, so from the area of JPI Urban Europe and now the current DOT program, that Driving Urban Transitions, our important goal is to synthesize all the results from the different research projects and communicate them efficiently to all the different stakeholders, including the scientific community, but of course also the practitioners. So we're delivering many different formats, some more practical and illustrative, but also some more directed to the scientific community. So, for example, we're working on the state of the art of, or the current state of research in positive energy districts. So, kind of a journal paper is currently in preparation by one of our consortium partners. And yeah, so all these different. So, for example, we are creating a knowledge hub and some kind of compendium of different solutions that so that it's easier for cities, for example, and policymakers to understand what they should do and how the solutions could look like. So I'm happy to get in touch with you, who has asked just this question, to learn about what your concrete ideas are. Maybe you have some special issue or something like that where we could maybe team up. So we're of course
absolutely
very open in our research projects. that we are funding, their goal is, of course, also to do research. It's applied research, but still there's many scientists in the consortia, so they are eager to publish by themselves as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fröhlich. This is not the last you'll be hearing from us. Well, we already work together, but especially in this particular case, a lot to look forward to. Mayor Merino, reflections from yourself on the question that Kathy posed.
We need to have good numbers, a good investigation, and we're happy to share and to work together. We have done that in Chile. We have a strong relation with universities, but there are a lot of knowledge to be shared, and we are facing the same problems. And when I have been with other mayors in other cities and other countries, we have realized that we are facing the same challenges, and we need to work together. And there is knowledge that have to be clear and concrete. And there are many ideas, but sometimes it's important to put this in a good document and from that to elaborate and to have a new contribution, because in Chile sometimes we are informal in the solutions and not with numbers, and I think what you have done in your UN transition mission to put numbers and to put studies and to put university that really work to have a good study that really address the problems is the way to really have a good implementation that in the long run will be successful.
Thank you so much, Mayor. That sounds like a resounding yes to me, and absolutely we'll be in touch around unearthing those areas of knowledge and the institutions that you already work with, as you mentioned in your initial intervention. Risto, I'm so sorry to do this to you. 30 seconds.
That's more than enough. Answer in brief is a strong yes, please, yes, please. And why? Because we have already an established research program in collaboration with our other universities, Turku Urban Research Program, and there is a number of peer-reviewed articles and reports on different topics. Second, we have very good experiences from different research programs, projects, and partnerships, mainly in Europe, but not limited to, on different important topics, and they always also producing peer-reviewed publications. And thirdly, we have a climate and environment policy team of 10 colleagues, and half of us have some kind of research background, and 2 are actually publishing yearly something peer-reviewed. So we are very much into that. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Risto, and thank you so much to our wonderful panel. We're just a minute over time, but thank you for the very insightful contributions. I will ask everyone here to just stay for a moment to take a photo, the same with those who are joining online. We'll have a family photo and invite my colleague Kathy to jump up on the stage. But a warm round of applause, please, for everyone who has participated in this panel.